Good day, Valenzuela Live students. I am Mrs. Camille L. Espino from Carohatan National High School. I am your Practical Research 1 live streaming teacher today. How are you? I hope that you are safe and healthy. Prepare yourselves for fresh knowledge that you will gain from today's lesson. The most essential learning competencies for our Week 2 lesson are the following. Number 1, describe the characteristics, processes, and ethics of research. And number 2, provide examples of research in areas of interest. So now, prepare your paper, pen, and self-learning module for we are about to begin. Our first activity is titled Pigpen Cipher. The Pigpen Cipher is an example of a substitution cipher in which the letters are replaced by symbols. In this activity, we will try to unlock the important terminologies in our today's lesson using the symbols in the Pigpen as clues. Let's have an example. Let us decipher the encrypted word here. This symbol represents letter R. This one represents letter E. This symbol represents letter S. This one is letter E. This is letter A. This is letter R. This is letter C. And this is letter H. So the word is research. So now, are you ready? You may type your answers in the comment section. You have 5 seconds for each item. This is cipher number 1. You are correct. The word is empirical. Next. You are right. The word is systematic. Number 3. Very good. The word is controlled. Number 4. You are correct. The term is employee's hypothesis. Number 5. Very good. The word is analytical. And number 6. You are right. The word is objective. So now, let us proceed to our lesson which is about the characteristics, processes, and ethics of research, and examples of research in areas of interest. Earlier in our activity, we have unlocked the following words which are the characteristics of research. So number 1, empirical. Number 2, systematic. Number 3, controlled. Number 4, employee's hypothesis. Number 5, analytical. And number 6, objective. So let us discuss them one by one. The first characteristic of research is that it is empirical, meaning it is based on direct experience, observation, and experimentation on theories by the researcher. It is not an opinion-based paper. You must understand that research itself can invent another truth or theory without performing an observation or experimentation. It is necessary for the researcher to establish his or her argument based on the evidence that his or her study provided. The second characteristic is that it is systematic. It is based on valid procedures and principles. In conducting a research, the researcher is following an orderly and sequential procedure. Also, research follows standardized or template steps and sequential procedure. These steps are known to academe for many years, and it continues to develop. Formats and procedures in research are also dynamic. The third characteristic is that it is controlled. This means that all the variables except those that are tested or experimented upon are kept constant. This also means that as a researcher, you are the one in control of selecting the topic, choosing the variables that may or may not be included in your research, the setting, the study depending on the access, choosing a research design that you believe fit for the needs of your study, and more controlled matter. Meaning, you are the one who sets the condition of your subjects in an observation. You are the one who sets the time on how long you need to observe and to gather some data in a case study. The next characteristic of research is that it employs hypotheses. So what is a hypothesis? A hypothesis is a scientific guess bounded on gathered facts or data. Research employs hypotheses means that you are not allowed to give an opinion, but you are allowed to have a scientific guess. This is for the researcher to guide its investigation process and think of different variables that may affect the result of its study. The hypothesis also serves as an indicator of possible threats to the validity of research. The fifth characteristic is that it is analytical. Research requires critical analysis of all data. Research is not as easy as telling what was observed, but always critical to the interpretation and subtle in performing the method used to analyze the data. You must not rush the result of your research. It utilizes proven analytical procedure in gathering and analyzing the data. Giving your analysis some time to think of the data and assessing your records may help you achieve accurate results. And number 6, research is objective. It is unbiased and all findings are logically based on empirical data. All research should be objective. It should not be influenced by the personal beliefs or motives of its researcher. All the findings are logically based on empirical data. And also, the honesty of the researcher is always required to achieve the objectivity of research. There should be no manipulation of data that can influence the result to become biased in favor of the motives of the one manipulating it. Results should be based on logical and critical evaluation of data without any influence of non-variable elements. So those are the characteristics of research. So now at this point, let us have another activity. So in our activity, you are going to arrange the following research steps chronologically. So use A for the first step, B for the second step, and so on. So these are the first 3 steps in research. Use letter A for the first step, letter B for the second step, and letter C for the third step. So you have 5 seconds to answer. You are right. The first step in research is have some reading and select an area of research that you are interested. The next step is write your potential research objective, questions, and expected outcome. And the third step is more readings for your related literature and study. This time, these are the last 5 steps in research. Let us arrange them chronologically using the letters from D to H. You have 10 seconds to answer. Very good. The fourth step is plan your methodology and data collection. The fifth step is gathering of data. Next is data analysis and reading of trends. Next is dealing with findings, conclusions, and recommendations. And the last step is research compilation. So again, these are the steps in conducting the research. So number 1, you have some time reading and selecting an area of research that you are interested in. Number 2, write your potential research objective, questions, and expected outcome based on the readings that you have done. Number 3, conduct more readings for your related literature and study. Number 4, plan your methodology and data collection techniques. Number 5 is gathering of data. Number 6 is data analysis and reading of trends. Number 7 is dealing with findings, conclusions, and recommendations. And the last step in the research process is research compilation. So you need to follow those steps in research for you to be able to conduct your research correctly. So now let's move on to another topic. So generally, ethics refers to the beliefs of what is right or wrong, proper or improper, good or bad. According to Merriam-Webster dictionary definition, to be ethical is to conform to accepted professional practice. So there are ethical issues that must be considered when conducting a research. So the first one is voluntary participation. This means that all research subjects are free to choose to participate without any pressure or coercion. All participants are able to withdraw from or leave the study at any point without feeling an obligation to continue. Your participants don't need to provide a reason for leaving the study. It is also important to make it clear to the participants that there are no negative consequences or repercussions to their refusal to participate. After all, they're taking the time to help you in the research process, so you should respect their decisions without trying to change their minds. Number two is informed consent. Informed consent refers to a situation in which all potential participants receive and understand all the information they need to decide whether they want to participate. This includes information about the study's benefits, risks, funding, and institutional approval. Usually, you'll provide participants with a text for them to read and ask them if they have any questions. If they agree to participate, they can sign the consent form. And in research with children, you'll often need to inform the permission of their parents or guardians. Next is number three, anonymity. Anonymity means that you don't know who the participants are and you can't link any individual participant to their data. You can only guarantee anonymity by not collecting any personally identifying information such as names, phone numbers, email addresses, IP addresses, physical characteristics, photos, and videos. Data pseudonymization is an alternative method where you replace identifying information about the participants with pseudonymous or fake identifiers. The data can still be linked to participants, but it's harder to do so because you separate personal information from the study data. Next is number four, confidentiality. Confidentiality means that you know who the participants are, but you remove all the identifying information from your report. All participants have a right to privacy, so you should protect their personal data for as long as you store or use them. Even when you can collect data anonymously, you should secure confidentiality whenever you can. The fifth is potential for harm. As a researcher, you must have to consider all the possible sources of harm to the participants. Harm can come in many different forms, such as social harm, psychological harm, physical harm, or even legal harm. And then number six is results communication. The way you communicate your research results can sometimes involve ethical issues. Good science communication is honest, reliable, and credible. It's best to make your results as transparent as possible. So take steps to actively avoid plagiarisms and research misconduct wherever possible. So now, let us move on. Research studies can happen in any of the following fields. It can be in anthropology, business, communication, education, engineering, law, or even nursing. So, don't you wonder how people in these areas conduct their research studies? Belonging to a certain area of discipline, you have the option to choose one topic that you want to pursue in your research paper. So let us now move on to examples of research in areas of interest. So to start with, let us have a simple activity. Think of research topics that you find most interesting. Let me take the lead. If I will be asked what I will write there, I will choose number one, students' performance, number two, small business enterprises, and number three, climate change. Now it's your turn. Type in the comment section your top 3 areas of interest for your research. Choose topics that, of course, depend on your field of specialization. You have 10 seconds to type in your answers. All right. Those that you have commented in our comment section are truly interesting topics to research on. Just remember that when you choose a research topic, choose the topic that is within your specialization and what interests you. With that, I am sure that you will be able to love doing your research paper. At this point, let us have a summary of the things that we have discussed today. First, we discussed the characteristics and processes of research. Then, we discussed the ethics in research. And lastly, we gave examples of research in areas of interest. So, before we end our discussion, let us see how much you have learned from our today's lesson. Type your answers in our comment section below. So, let's have a fact check. Type true if the statement is correct. Otherwise, type false. Are you ready? So you have 5 seconds to answer each item. Number 1. Research must do good and no harm to the participants. Is it true or false? If your answer is true, you are correct. Okay? Number 2. The rights of the participants must be well protected and respected. Is it true or false? If your answer is true, you are very good. Number 3. Research does not teach you to work systematically. Is it true or false? If your answer is false, you are right. Next, number 4. Research findings must be based on observations and experimentation. Is it true or false? If your answer is true, you are correct. And last, number 5, the research participant must be fully informed about the nature of research, its purpose, and potential risks and benefits. Is it true or false? If your answer is true, then you are correct. So now, we have reached the end of our today's session. If you have questions or clarifications about our lesson, feel free to ask your subject teachers during the follow-up discussion. Before we end, let me leave you with this quote from Neil Armstrong. He said, research is creating new knowledge. And that concludes our second lesson in Practical Research 1. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and God bless us all.